Hey, welcome back to another episode of the 1211 podcast. I'm your host, Jackson, and I'm here with a special inaugural guest, good friend, and executive director of Operation Light Shine, Bryan Waite.
Appreciate you having me, man. Hopefully first and not the last. So hopefully make this really good.
Amen. Bryan, thanks for coming on. I know you've got a busy schedule. And before we get into this, I just want to pray for us and for everybody on the other end of this, listening to it, just to invite the Lord into the conversation. So, Father, we thank you for today. We thank you that you've allowed Bryan and I to gather in these chairs in this room with these microphones. And I pray that you would allow us to be your mouthpiece today, that everything that's said would bring a heightened awareness and a frustration within the souls of every ear with the evil that is taking place in this world, with this fallen, broken world, that the atrocities committed against your children, Lord, would be highlighted, and that ultimately through all of it, you would be glorified as there are men and women fighting the fight for your children, Bryan being one of them. May this conversation bring awareness, and just ultimately, as everyone listening to this hears it, may they have a desire to help your children as well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right. So Operation Light Shine, tell us a little bit about your organization and what you do there.
Absolutely. So it's pretty simple. Operation Light Shine's main goal is to shine a light of hope in the fight against human trafficking and child exploitation. And I have the absolute honor and the privilege to serve as the executive director for Operation Light Shine.
And how long has Operation Light Shine been an organization?
So we were founded about 5.5 years ago. So we're still pretty young org, but we're mighty in power, and we've been making some great progress.
And a nonprofit.
Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you've been with Operation Light Shine for how long now?
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as the executive director?
I was acting CEO when we had that title for about 2 years, and have been officially executive director for the past 9 months.
Okay. And the mission of Operation Light Shine, you know, you touched on it about child exploitation, human trafficking. What is the ultimate goal for Operation Light Shine through those things?
Yeah, so what we saw when we were looking at the fight against exploitation and trafficking, right? We were looking at what are the gaps. There's some amazing recovery, some amazing aftercare, some amazing educational people, right? But who are impacting the front lines? What are the resources going to the front lines to actually combat it head on? And that's where we saw the gap. I mean, not to bore you or your followers with numbers, but the U.S. government spends $42 billion with a capital B in counter narcotics, right? But when it comes to exploitation and trafficking, they spend $198 million against that. So that disparity is the reason why these gaps exist, right? So when we were looking at that, we were like, well, that's the gap. We want to stand in that gap right there. Let's go privately fundraise and do private-public partnerships with law enforcement agencies directly and give them these resources that they do not have, that a lot of people just assume they do. So we provide salary reimbursements for detectives. We provide vehicles, infrastructure, hardware, software, all these things that their agencies typically can't allow them to purchase on their own.
Wow. So in relation to some of the other organizations that are trying to help exploited children or human trafficking, those gaps are really what make you different.
Correct.
And out of that 198 million, y'all receive...
Our nonprofit won't, but the local agency, so that 198 million is also split between 3 programs.
Right.
One of which is what's called ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children. It's a governmentally funded task force that fights this. And so they only get a third of that. And then you take that third and then you divide it up by all the ICAC affiliates, which then it disseminates down to like less than $1 million sometimes per state.
Right.
And that's where it's like we need this new piece of software. We can't afford it. You can't get it. We need more training. Can't afford it. Can't get it. And so that's where we step in.
Being privately funded, what are some of the ways that you raise those funds, and how have y'all grown over the last 5 years as an organization financially?
Yeah, God has truly blessed us. That's the only way I can say it. His hand has been over our org since day one. I mean, we've been through some moments where we thought we were going to have to shut the doors, to where we are today, where we're funded in close to $4.5 million this year.
Wow.
And the way that we do that is through a variety of different things. We have one really great partnership with the Tim Tebow Foundation. Tim Tebow, we're one of their best ministry partners, or I like to consider us one of their best
Yeah.
ministry partners. But no, they, Timmy and his heart and his foundation's been amazing. They've stood beside us literally since day one. And then we do a lot of public fundraising and awareness campaigns where we just say, hey, look, here's what we're doing. Help us join the fight, jump in with us. And luckily, people have a heart for this and they want to jump in and get involved.
Speaking of getting involved, how did you, Bryan Waite, get involved with Operation Lightshine?
It's a pretty boring story. But really, I grew up as a pastor's kid, and being a PK, you always live your life hearing about people speaking about being called to ministry, right? And, I come from a long, long history of family and ministry. I have like 3 uncles, 4 cousins, my wife's family, they're all pastors.
Wow.
And I always felt like I had a calling in my life, but never knew what it was. So I went into the for-profit businesses of marketing and operations. My uncle, or my wife's uncle technically, who was the vice president of the board when it was founded, lived here in Nashville. This is where the org was originally founded. And they called and were like, hey, listen, we want to run a couple things by you, get your feedback. How we should market some of this, how we think we should do some of the things here. So flew into Nashville, met with them, and just had my mind blown. I'm a father of 2 myself, and just hearing what exploitation is blew my mind and literally just numbed me on the inside to the point where I was like, this is my calling. This is where I feel I need to be. And so just told him, listen, I'm ready to walk away from corporate space tomorrow. I mean, I would do it now if I could.
Yeah.
I was like, whatever you guys need, whenever you're ready, please let me know. About 4 to 6 months later, they gave me a call, quit my job, and have been with them since, and just have been blessed to work my way up through the organization.
And you live in what part of the country?
I currently reside in Delaware.
Okay.
At that time, we were in Florida, which we miss. But yeah, right now we're in Delaware.
Are there pockets of the country that are more affected by child exploitation and human trafficking than others?
The easy answer is yes. But when you look at the population sizes, right? So everybody's like, oh, well, Dallas is the worst. Tampa is the worst. And it's like, well, they're bad because the amount of population that's there. But this impacts the ruralest of the ruralest counties. I mean, especially the exploitation side of the house. I mean, if we were to look at caseloads, exploitation to human trafficking typically outweighs 1,000 to 1.
Wow.
So for every 1 human trafficking case, there's about 1,000 child exploitation or child sexual abuse cases against it.
I think one of the most misunderstood and almost downplayed sides of it, and I think that ratio of 1,000 to 1 really brings light to it, is the exploitation side. Child pornography and explicit images and videos and things on the internet. As we are in a culture of devices, especially, when we were growing up, we didn't have cell phones.
Yep.
It was be home by dark 30.
Yep.
What have you seen that parents listening to this may never have considered as a threat to their home and to their children?
I think there's a awareness that we as Americans have just lost. We just assume because we live here, nothing could ever happen to our kids, right? To that level. And I think that's where we've messed up. I think when we grew up, we were taught about bad guy and white van, stranger danger, right?
Yeah.
And that's where we had this issue of like, we don't want to engage in a conversation with somebody we don't know. You take that to where we are today. I have an 11-year-old son who does gaming. We don't allow him to do live stream gaming or anything that where he can communicate. But the unfortunate part is there's way more kids that do.
Right.
So you could have a kid, little Tommy, for example. Hey, who are you talking to? It's my best friend. Okay, well, what's his name? Well, I don't know. I know his handle name, but I don't know his name. Well, where does he live? I don't know. Who's his parents? I don't know. And that's the difference, I think, between our generation and this generation is this just blindness to where when you asked us when we were kids, who's your best friend? His name is Jimmy. He lives 4 streets down. His mom and dad are Bobby and Susie.
Right.
Like his dog's name is this. Like we knew everything about the people we're engaging with. Where this generation, they are so blinded and naive to what devices and gaming platforms do that they have just lost all sense of anything to even bring that security level to themselves. So technology plays a giant role. I say all the time, We used to, again, bad guy in a white van, right? Well, now the white van is the cell phone, and
Yeah.
we're parking it in our kids' bedrooms at night sometimes. We don't know who they're talking to, and we don't know what they're doing. And that's where parents have to wake up, and we have to come to understand of, look, like, we've got to re-engage with our children. I'm a parent. I get it. I know it's hard. I know it's frustrating to so easily hand a device because I'm busy. But we've got to start understanding what we're doing when we're handing that device to our children, the impact it could have on them.
Yeah. I think I heard this saying, and it has stuck with me ever since, that when we give a device to our child, we are not giving them access to the world. We are giving the world access to our
Correct.
child.
Yep.
And I think sometimes we forget that. It's not just Xbox Live. It's not just Roblox. It's not just Snapchat or Instagram or Facebook. It is the entire world, this fallen, broken, evil world that has now been given a doorway to potentially access our children spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and then sometimes it carries into the physical. Have you seen child and human trafficking cases that stemmed from communication that started online?
Yeah, I mean, that's the majority of it is it comes from online. I mean, it's a case of what they consider Romeo trafficking, right? Where they don't have the best home life. So they're looking on gaming platforms to connect with other people, where a male may see this and just start dropping little small comments. Hey, you did a great job today. Hey, you really matter to me. And then they trauma bond, or they start bonding with this child. Then they get them to leave that platform to a more explicit content platform where they can start sending images. You're so beautiful. I know your parents don't care about you, but I do. And they start doing that, bonding with this person, to where this child now thinks, well, he's right. My parents don't care about me, but this person does. He loves me. He knows about me. And then they will get them to leave and meet them. And then that's all it takes sometimes. And then they're just entrapped into this life of trafficking. And it doesn't look like you think sometimes. Sometimes trafficking just starts off as, hey, I don't have anywhere to live anymore. I don't have any money. It's either you go and steal a ton of clothes from me that I can sell and get money, or you have to go to a hotel and have sex trafficking. So it goes both ways. And so that's where a lot of people just assume that trafficking just looks like this one thing, and it just doesn't. It does not look like Taken. We all feel, we know what trafficking is. I've seen Taken. It's Liam Neeson and a boat. And it's just, that is hardly ever the case. It's normally something very subtle that a lot of us probably encounter or look at every single day, and we just don't know it.
I think just the concept of how seemingly innocent it could start is one of the most eye-opening things. Like you said, we think of Taken, right? Not realizing that, some of the most manipulative and deceiving individuals, it all starts with micro compliances, small little yeses. Even a child that has a curfew of 11 o'clock. Well, can you stay up till 11:30 and talk with me? I really need to talk to you about what's going on at home. Do you find there to be parallels? I mean, obviously, evil sees no demographic, but in terms of the home life, a home where the parents are together or divorced, only children versus siblings, are there any things that you would say, denominators that could be common, that you've seen an increase in exploitation and then ultimately trafficking?
Again, it's a very complicated answer because it, like you mentioned, it doesn't know any geographical location. It doesn't know any race. It doesn't know any sex. It just can impact everybody everywhere differently. So the easy answer is, of course, like the children that come from broken homes, the children that don't have, especially in the females, a strong father figure that speaks into their lives and speaks that love, joy, peace, like the fruits into their children. Like you're going to see it there. But the unfortunate part is, majority of these trafficking and child sex abuse issues come from what we consider familial trafficking, right? That means it is either a father, a mother, a close relative, or a close family friend. So this is somebody this child knows, and somebody this child expects to protect, and that is most likely making them the most vulnerable.
I think, back in my own life, that definitely checked some of those boxes. And, I guess a kind of a deeper question on that is, this more organized crime or systemic cultural failure?
Yeah. I think there's the trafficking side of it is more the crime. The child sex abuse is definitely the other. I mean, it's spiritual warfare. What these I don't even like calling them people. What these offenders do to these children is nothing short of satanic. I mean, it's the purest of the evil that you could ever imagine, right? I mean, we are fighting the biggest spiritual battle in this field when it comes to that. I truly believe. So
There is that, we look back at the Old Testament and child sacrifice and, false god worship and demonic worship. And when the Lord flooded the earth, those spirits remain, and those spiritual attacks carry through people. And Brett, when we met at the event for Ocala, Brett Pack, that impact on his life then led to a domino effect into his adult years. And likewise for myself. What are the ages that you've seen, most impacted? It can be very young. Infants.
Yeah. The majority of it is prepubescent children. So we're talking about toddlers, some of them still in diapers. We're talking, 16, 17-year-old, I think so many times our society thinks that's what it is, right? And that is not right. Any child that is not an adult, that is not consenting, it is wrong. But the sad reality is that majority of these children are prepubescent. We're talking about the most innocent of the innocent, that some people are like, oh, well, they asked for it by what they're wearing. These are babies. Yeah. This is something they did not ask for. That is happening to them.
And I know there's a wide array of situations. There's really no black and white answers. But are there some things that parents listening to this could be more aware of in terms of protecting their child in those circumstances?
I get asked this question by my friends, and I always feel sometimes like I'm going to get looked at sideways because I feel like people just think, oh, well, you're overprotective. And the sad reality is I truly feel as a parent, I can never be too overprotective.
Right.
God has entrusted me with these beautiful babies to protect them, from mental, spiritual, any type of warfare, right? Physical. So it's my job to do that. It really boils down to you've got to know who your kids are interacting with. Again, so many times, like you'll hear on a lot of different podcasts, on a lot of different videos, we don't do sleepovers.
Yeah.
That's one of the simplest ways because it can lead to something. And that's not to say the friend that you want to send them home with you don't trust, but what you don't know is that night when your kid's having a sleepover, who are they bringing into their house maybe to have a party too? Where it's another friend group of theirs where the husband might be the pervert of the group, where he might slip off into a room to see a child while they're out there just having fun playing a board game.
Yeah.
They may have a brother that lives with them that you don't know about. And so I think it's just coming to a situation where we realize who our children are engaging with and listening to them when they're engaging of, hey, look, something fell off, and being able to hear that and receive that properly.
Would you say that there are some warning signs, like some clues, some subtle red flags that a child could exhibit? Or is it just more or less kind of setting up boundaries and parameters?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think children have been affected by that. They do have their signs. They get very quiet very quickly. They get nervous around large groups of people at a time. There's little, again, it doesn't look like one thing, but there are signs there. But I think, not to go off on a tangent, but I think that's where as parents, we have to do a better job of listening without judgment.
Right.
Right? Because so many times it's so easy to hear something and just go right to anger, right? Instead of truly listening to what your child's saying, because there may be something behind that statement that you shut them down at because of anger, where they needed to truly tell you something because they see you get angry and they think, oh, well, this was my fault. I did something wrong, so I can't tell them now because now they're going to be even more mad, or they're going to ground me for a week, right? And I think it's the ability to truly be parents and lead with love and listen to our children, because there isn't just a sign. It's just you hope you're in tune with how your child acts and know that hopefully I can pick up something that isn't right with my children in that moment.
Yeah, it's that tricky dichotomy of disciplining our child, but allowing them to feel the emotional safety to come to us.
100%.
And sometimes I think we can almost get too far into the gentle parenting and
Yep.
the overly, accepting category of anything goes and almost let the child kind of parent themselves. And then also we can get into the over-disciplined, hyper-reactive that will suppress those times when a child wants to come to us or talk to us. I think you hit the nail on the head with, obviously we need to educate our children about things, but it's even more important that we listen.
Mm-hmm.
And between the lines too, what are they saying, even though they're not necessarily saying it? Because also I think about, the sleepover thing. When we were children, I'm not sure about your parents, but mine, it was, well, are their parents home?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. If your parents are home, then everything's fine. That's not always the case. In fact, like you said, sometimes one of the parents could be an offender.
Yep.
Or maybe they've got a brother in town, or they've got a friend over that night watching a late night football game or something. And we have no idea the environment of that home space.
Yep.
And that's one thing in terms of devices, right? What are some rules or boundaries that you have within your own home in terms of devices, phones, iPads? Do your children have them? What is your take, your opinion?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we do have devices. My daughter is turning 13 in 25 days.
Wow.
So she's in that environment of girls having social media. She doesn't have social media.
Okay, no social media.
No social media. She does have a device, but we have a great partnership operationalized with a company called Bark, B-A-R-K. Basically, it's a locked, safe phone, right? So my daughter, if it is a contact that is not stored within it that we put into it, no number can text it. She can't call it. There's no communications. It tracks unhealthy speaking. So if it's somebody that we do know, that's one of our friends that we give her access to, but they're saying harsh words, like it gives me an alert.
Wow.
If she records a video on her thing and it looks like, because one of the funniest things was, I think it was 4th of July and we were being silly, like us as a family, and she was doing a recording and like 10 minutes later it sent me a possible drunken activity. I was like, that's great.
That's
like
great. That's
great.
Incredible.
Like it's hypersensitive. So it picks up on the silliest of things, but it's a great tool to where, again, she doesn't feel left out, around her friend group. I have my device, I have my phone, we can text, we can talk, but it's controlled, and it does not go in her bedroom. At night, it gets turned off and comes into our room. She only gets it if we're going out to like one of our churches that we go to in Tampa. Youth is in one building, main service is in another, so she takes her device in case she needs us. She goes to an event where we can't be there because we have 2 kids. Maybe we have to drop one off. She has it, but that's about it. And that's my son, who's 11, doesn't have one yet. We'll probably get one this year, but every child is also different, right? It's not like there's this magical number and they hit it and it's like, they're ready now.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 16-year-olds, no offense. I didn't need one at 16.
I didn't need one,
you know what I mean?
At 25. So
exactly. So it's knowing your children too, and like being in tune with who they are and maturity-wise where they're at.
Right.
But tablets, we have tablets because we travel a good bit. We homeschool. So I'm very fortunate to bring my family with me sometimes, which means the world to me. But gaming-wise, they can do some gaming, but all the live chat options are turned off. We don't let them get on some of the major games like the Roblox or any of that.
No Roblox.
We don't touch it.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many gaming platforms that have such access to our children that it's just scary. And so we do a good job, or I try to do a good job of learning what these games are, these platforms or these apps, and make sure my kids don't touch them.
Is there a list that you could give people?
Off the top of mind, Roblox number 1.
Okay.
I mean, that's cut and dry. I mean, it's the worst of the worst out there. On our website, we have what we consider like our top 10 dangerous games and apps. Discord, there's a few of them where it's really high in encrypted places to where even if we wanted to do something, like we can't get access to the chat from the law enforcement side.
Right.
So it's just off the top of mind, those are my 2 big ones, Discord and Roblox.
And what is your website?
So it is www.operationlightshine.org.
Okay. Yeah. www.operationlightshine.org.
Yes, sir.
And the Bark phone, is the device itself, is it an iPhone with a Bark download, or is it an actual phone?
It is an actual Samsung phone.
Okay.
But it is a giant touchscreen, looks good phone. There is a version where you can download the Bark app onto an iPhone, but it's not as secured as the actual phone being locked on their end. So,
do you know how much those cost?
A couple $100, and I think the plan is like $30 a month. I mean, it's not that expensive. I mean, to me, safety, it comes first. So if it's a little more expensive, I would rather cut back on a cup of coffee a month
Yeah.
than knowing the device my child has is safe.
I mean, iPhones are north of $1,000 now, and the plans are not cheaper.
No.
So, somebody that is looking for a phone, they need to be able to communicate. Maybe they're working a lot. Maybe they have 2-3 jobs, but their child needs to be picked up from school and have sitters. They need a phone.
Correct.
Bark phone is a good option.
It is
for some families.
the best option as a family.
Okay.
I literally tell all my friends who ask, hey, our kid's about to get a phone. What do you recommend? Bark. Every time. That's
Awesome.
the best route to go. Again, and it can unlock, as they get older, you can unlock more things. They can download apps if you allow it. They can download music if you allow it. It allows the ability for that phone to age with the child too. As it gets more responsibility, you can unlock more to where it's a standard Samsung phone that has no guards on it, but it allows you the ability to go with the child as the phone goes.
And you, as the parent and the owner of the phone, have the authority to choose what
Complete
happens.
and utter control. One app on my phone, one app on my wife's phone. And if she wants a new contact, we have to add it from our side.
Amazing.
If she wants to do something, it sends us a notification. We have to approve it. So we have full control over what is on that phone.
Incredible. Yeah. I think that is these tangible resources
Yes.
are so crucial for us as parents to know about. This is my first time hearing about Bark phone. Now, granted, our daughter's almost 2, so we have some time.
You got plenty.
But there's a lot of listeners that their children are with devices or about to get a device, and they need a good option because the iPhone, I think, is one of the most, there's good that it serves, but just as a society, one of the most detrimental pieces of technology we faced, not only just in terms of human-to-human connection, but in terms of the opportunities for evil in this world to make its way into our lives. In regards to some of the things that Operation Light Shine focuses on, what does a win look like for the organization?
One more kid, if we can protect one more kid. For us, we care so much. There's 2 wins for me. One more kid and one more law enforcement partner, right? Because what a lot of people don't understand is this crime type, it takes a very special person to investigate it, right? Especially the child exploitation, child sexual abuse material side of it, where a lot of these detectives themselves are parents, right? So being able to sit down to a room and view probably the most evil thing you could ever think of and imagine, whatever you think it is, times that by 10 sometimes. So for me, it's being able to step in with some of these heroes that I consider these people are true heroes, and step beside them and give them tools and technology that protects them, right? Because we want to give them technology that makes their jobs faster. We want to give them technology that helps them from not having to view as much of what this stuff they need to. So that is a giant win. Giving longevity back to these heroes who sacrifice their own innocence to protect our children is a big win. And another one, again, is just to save one more kid. If we can help identify or rescue one more kid, that's all. I mean, we could spend $2 million next year, but if we identify and rescue one kid, it's worth every penny we spent.
Speaking of seeing a lot, you've seen a lot. I think for someone listening to this to say that you are overprotective when you have been a witness to some of the atrocities done is naive.
Yeah.
To what extent has the evil gone, and how unaware are people of it?
I am very fortunate that I have to see majority of stuff that these law enforcement partners do. But I do hear the stories, right? Of like, hey, here's an investigation that we just finished. And the moment I feel like I've heard the worst one yet, next month I probably hear one that's even worse. When I first started, we had to put together these information packets where we were trying to talk with governors from every state about what we're doing and how we could help their local agencies within their state. And I was up in my office. I work from home. We would have a full remote model. And we pull these maps from an organization called Child Rescue Coalition, CRC. They have the ability to basically scrub the internet for chats, people that are uploading, downloading, and sharing child sexual abuse material. Oh. And with that, we're able to see files, names. So I'm pulling one together. I forget what state it was, but I'm literally pulling the image to put it into the presentation. And it was like 8-year-old girl brutally anally raped. And like my daughter, who at the time was 8, walks in the door. And just knowing that there is somebody out there that's doing this to innocent children, and even younger than my own daughter, it just breaks my heart, man. We are facing a true epidemic and pandemic than we ever had before. Before we started using it with COVID, like this is a true one. It's getting worse by the day. It's not getting better. We have lost as a society, if you ask me right now. The fact that we have so much of this happening, and the focus and the conversation and the funding is not focused on it, it's just soul crushing to me. That was that one, and the one we just had recently, man, was about 1.5 years ago, where we got hit up about an active case of a hands-on offender. We didn't know who it was, but they had listed at the time what we thought was a 3-year-old, basically on a sex ad site. So they put together a package. They were able to go kick in the door. It was a 2-year-old girl in diaper in the hallway that was running to our investigators and detectives. And it was our own dad. And so, just hearing these stories, it takes a very big emotional and mental toll. I've had my own issues and my own stuff that traumatized me as a child, that a lot of this sometimes does trauma triggering. And then it's given me this, again, not to go off on a tangent, but it's kind of given me a jaded view as a father at times, which I pray every day for God to give me more patience, because my children are blessed. We have a great life. They have everything they need. And then I deal with these issues of all these children and what they're going through. And the moment like my kid will act up about something silly, it's just, I go to anger way too fast, because I'm like, you haven't made. You have no clue what hunger is. You have no clue what abuse is. You have no clue what this is. And I have a jaded view towards my own children.
Wow.
And it just takes this emotional and mental toll on me, where it's just so hard, man. Then again, and I don't even touch a small percentage of what these people touch on a daily basis with law enforcement agencies. So, it's been a lot, but it's my burden to carry. I believe this is the yoke that I need to step in with them, that I want to make theirs easier. So that's why we do what we do, to be able to help not only myself, but help our law enforcement partners too.
And you said a couple of things in there. I think it's nearly impossible for us to wrap our minds around the levels of disgust.
Mm-hmm.
This, Operation Light Shine, someone may hear it and it seemingly has somewhat of a positive name, Light Shine. This is not a charity. This is a war being fought.
Correct.
And everyone involved is bearing the weight of this war,
yep,
including you. And you're only dealing and seeing with a fraction of it. How do you handle the weight of what you do?
One and only answer is my faith. It truly is. I mean, I get asked that all the time, and it's literally my faith that I know that, we were going through Romans right now, right? Because of Easter, and it was so cool. We were at our home church in Delaware. We were in Romans 8. We went to Highlands in Alabama yesterday, Romans 8. They picked right up, so it was like we didn't miss it. And I wrote a note that I wanted to kind of go over in case this topic got brought up.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we're kind of reading through Romans 8:28, and it says, "And we know that all things work together for good to those that love God and to those who are called according to his purpose." And our pastor Dino brought up a great thing, man. And it just says, we may not always feel like we're winning, but we should always know that God is working. And to me, that's the part that continues to push me every day, right?
Yeah.
'Cause it's so easy to wake up and be like, I love my job. I don't feel like I'm working. Like, that part's not there. But the spiritual warfare side of it, it's like, I may not know, or I may not feel like we're winning, but I do know one thing, that my God is working, and that what we're doing here is going to have an eternal difference. And the children that our law enforcement people may not meet, and the children I may not meet, the ability to know that we've done something to change the trajectory of their lives is what makes it all worth it.
I think that's one of the most challenging things in life, especially as we look around at a world that is getting more and more broken.
Yeah.
Is knowing that there is a God. And, there's the camp that says, well, if a God exists, why would this evil exist? Evil is the reality that a good is present, is there. Same way with light and darkness.
Yep.
Darkness is the absence of light.
Correct.
And you bring light into the situation. The Lord's hand is on all of this. And he allows things, but he also orchestrates things. The discouragement, I can only imagine, that tries to attack you. How do you continue to push through that with your faith on a day-to-day basis and fight the fight? I think about Paul, fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith, that endurance, right? What are the things that really keep you moving? Is it your children at home? Is it your wife? Is it seeing the rescue of these children? Like, how do you continue to show up years after this?
It's all those things. It's my children, looking at them going that every day. It's an amazing blessing reminder, right? That's why I'm doing it. So that, number one, my kids, Lord, I pray, never have to experience anything like this. And I want to do everything that any other child does not either.
Yeah.
And it's knowing that every time I see one of our law enforcement partners and they say thank you to me, I hate it. I'm like, bro, do not thank me. Thank you.
Right.
Like, I am blessed to be able to do what we do to give you the resources that you need. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's literally that, man. It's those two. It's kids and law enforcement. I mean, that's why I do it. And then my amazing wife.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to meet her earlier. She is my rock. I travel a lot. We go to a lot of places. Not every time she can go, but she selflessly serves. She is my spiritual rock at times when I need it. She's my family's rock. She's been through a lot with me. So she's a big piece of it as well. So
yeah, the teammate
that's
component.
My best friend,
Yeah.
my partner.
Amen.
Yeah.
There's parents that try and turn a blind eye. They don't want to think about it. They don't want to talk about it.
Yeah.
You were just talking about when you look at your children, that is the reminder that there are other children out there.
Yeah.
What would you say to a parent listening to this that just wants to ignore and kind of pretend like it's not a problem?
I would say you're part of the problem. Bold statement to make, but I'll make it. I mean, silence is where this issue grows. We have to start getting comfortable about things that make us uncomfortable. Like, we've got to start talking about this. The moment you feel it can't happen to you, and most likely, if it hasn't already, it might. So you've got to quit being naive. We've got to quit burying our heads in the sand. Tim Tebow, I call him Timmy, I apologize. Tim Tebow has this great story, right, where he's out golfing. I forget what state it was, with probably three of the most powerful and influential people in that state. Gets a call from Camille, who's the head of anti-trafficking and exploitation at the Tim Tebow Foundation, about something big that's happening to a group of children. They've got to go do something. They've got to figure something out quick. So Timmy tells the guys, hey, listen, I've got to step away. I've got to take this phone call, right? And they're like, okay, cool. A couple holes later, about an hour, he rejoins them. They're like, hey, you don't have to tell us too much, right? But can you kind of tell us what's happening? And he was like, yeah. So he starts listing this off, and one of the guys literally goes, oh, stop. I do not want to hear that.
Mm.
And Timmy goes, if that girl was standing here right now, knowing that we are the hope that she should have, and she hears you tell me to stop because it makes you feel uncomfortable, what hope does she have? And that's where we got to get to it. I mean, we are not talking about something that is pretty or is going to go away. We have got to start having conversations about what is happening to our children here, not overseas, here domestically in the United States, in every single community.
Would you say silence is the biggest cause of failure? Would you say government funding? Would you say?
So I think it's government funding 100%.
I mean, we send hundreds of billions overseas for wars that people would argue we don't need to be involved in.
Correct.
Different conversation, different topic.
100%.
Not to say that we shouldn't help those, but we have, like you said, a massive war in our own soil that seems to be extremely underfunded. You know, I mean, if someone gave you even just $1 million today, how much could you do with that?
So we broke it down. I think we've spent as an organization in the past 4 years, $5-6 million in the fight, right? And then we've been able to identify and rescue 486 victims with that.
Wow.
Which breaks down to about $8,000 per child is what it costs. If we're going to do numbers just based off of those analytics, what it costs. I mean, you could do that math. 8,000 by $1 million. I mean, we can go save a lot of kids. I mean, those numbers were based off of 5 task force models that we have, 3 of which we didn't have for the first 2 years. So if we had $1 million, the impact we could have would be amazing.
120, 130
easily. And
children.
that's that. And what people also have to understand is that's the ID and rescue part. We've arrested over, I want to say 700 perpetrators of this fight, right?
Right.
And if we were to look at those numbers and just say, let's just say they all were hands-on offenders. Every hands-on offender has, I want to say, a minimum of 6 victims per guy. So then again, let's do the math on that. So now we're eliminating landmines too, where we may have only got them at 1 child, where now those future 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 may not be impacted now because of the funding that we were able to give that arrested that 1 guy, right? So there's a ripple effect to this as well. And the government funding, listen, that is a piece of it. And people ask me all the time, like, why do you feel it's like that? I'm like, it's pretty simple.
Yeah.
You know, narcotics is $42 billion because I can put cash and a boat and a house and all these sexy things on this table, and everybody's like, yeah, right, cool,
mission accomplished.
Yeah,
good,
we
good
can look at that, we can point at that, it looks good. I put a 2-year-old in a diaper who's been sexually abused by its father sitting on that table. Everybody wants to turn their head.
Yeah.
So the more we fund something, the more we have to talk about it. And unfortunately, as Americans, we have a society where we want to look better than what we truly are. We want to put off this vibe as if we've got it together and we do no wrong, when we are the #1 producer and consumer of child sexual abuse material. So it's not funded because we don't want to talk about it. Again, that's the issue. And so listen, I was listening to an amazing podcast about the CEO of Charity Water, who actually is from here in Tennessee. And they're like, I think they celebrated 25 years of their nonprofit at Charity Water, and they've raised over $1 billion, which is an amazing amount of money. And he's been interviewed, Scott Harrison is his name. And they're like, man, you've got to feel so great and accomplished. And he was like, no, like I don't. He was like, do you know how much money the America spends on chocolate? $25 billion. So you want to put in perspective, saving kids, giving water, all these things. Like there is so much money here in the United States. I think they said there's like 42 trillion just sitting in assets being used for hedge funds, right? That is just sitting there collecting interest that could be pulled and put into places to make impact, and they just don't. And again, part of it as nonprofits, we've done our part of also giving ourselves black eyes, but there are some out there that are doing amazing work, and the money is here, man. But if we've really got to start connecting to the cause, I think is the issue sometimes, is there's so many people just creating noise, not creating impact.
Yeah.
That's why I feel so unique about Operation Lightshine is the tangibility to say, hey, look, I gave that money, and here's the rest, the indictments, the rescues, like here's all the statistics that go around what our funding did. And it's because of us that impact is being made.
What are some ways that people can be involved in making that impact? You know, volunteering physically with their abilities to serve? Is it financially? Is it spreading awareness through social media? You know, how can someone listening to this that hears some of these things you shared, I want to be a part of that. I'm tired of turning a blind eye. Yeah. I have children at home, or I see children. I care for children. I love children. We're called to care for the widows and the orphans and all of God's children.
Yep.
To that person that wants to be involved somehow, some way, what are some ways that they can do it?
The easy answer is educate. You know, a lot of people, I'm sure, were thinking I was about to say, well, you got to donate. Well, of course, as nonprofits, that's literally how we're able to grow. But we've got to educate. We have a giant educational gap right now not just about what trafficking is, but about what child exploitation is
Yeah.
and the impact that it's having on our children today. We've got to start educating ourselves. We have got to start equipping ourselves. I mean, we have 3 key pillars: equip, empower, and educate. We've got to start doing those things. You know, we're going to do our part to help do that with law enforcement, but as a society and as protectors and guardians, we've got to start equipping, empowering, and educating ourselves and how to do this and how to do it properly and safeguard. And we've got to wake up. We've got to wake up.
There's a saying that, everyone is doing the best they can with the level of awareness that they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to tell you, thank you. I know this was a relatively short conversation for the things that we could have really gotten deep into. And the margin of things you shared, even just 2 small stories, is a grain of sand into some of the things that happen to these children. But I hope and pray that this conversation brings awareness to others, to parents, and to young adults, children listening to this, specifically the young adult side. What are some ways that you've seen recruitment take place? Is it, a college kid struggling to make their bills? Is it a young adult trying to find a job and they don't want to go back to their parents? How do the young adults get roped into this and then ultimately end up either being exploited or trafficked?
Yeah, I think it's a few different ways. One, unfortunately, is that narcotics does play a role in this, right? Where kids get addicted to some type of drug or painkiller or whatever it is that they can't afford to pay for their last use, right, or their last high. And so what they do is, majority of the time, now their drug dealer becomes their pimp. Hey, because you can't pay for it, but you need it, you want it every day, you're going to now have to go have sex with 10 guys today to get your fix.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. I think, again, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of these girls are looking for something, right? They're looking for love. They're looking for that attention, that dopamine drop, unfortunately, right? These phones have caused our children to feel that if somebody isn't liking or sharing or talking about them every 30 minutes, that they're doing something wrong as a girl, and their beauty is found in others when God has told us like their beauty is within them, right? And that, I think that's where a lot of these girls get hooked and they get roped into having a conversation. And again, these guys sometimes are very good looking guys that, hey, look, I like you. You're cute. And they start developing that relationship with them. And then, hey, look, I got you this good acting job or this modeling job. I think you would do really well out here. And they go do this job, and it is nothing what they told it was.
Yeah.
And it's because they believe this person that they started having a romantic relationship that they were bonding with. And now they're stuck. They don't have any money because they went out there. That's why they needed a job. So again, it looks a lot of different ways. And I think it just comes back down to just having a self-awareness and a self-value of knowing that, you're God's child, and that your value as a person shouldn't come from other people's opinions. It should come from within you. And that's where, not to say I wish everybody in America become a Christian. It's never going to, I wish it would. That would be amazing. But I don't think it'll ever get there. But I think we've got to start we've got to get our moral compass back on to begin with and start pointing it back in the right direction at least.
Yeah.
And just start having standards as people again. Because right now we live in a gray world. There is no black, there is no white, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's just like, whatever makes you feel good. And we've got to get away from that mindset.
Yeah. I think I'm hearing a lot of the theme with some of these children, young adults that are getting taken advantage of, and there's that vulnerability piece. Mm-hmm. Whether it's a child who can't defend themselves, they're very vulnerable there, or a young adult who's in a situation financially, physically, professionally, whatever, where they're at risk, and they get taken advantage of vulnerably. And you hit the nail on the head. Finding our identity and our worth in Christ, our truth, and what the scriptures tell us that the Lord feels about his children and knows about his children, the image that we were created in his image, is so important. I think a lot of the young adult side is seeking their who are they? Where is their worth? Where is their value?
Yeah.
And going from substance to person to substance, it resonates with my own life. On both ends, as a young adult and as a child. And so as we kind of wrap this up, www.operationlightshine.org.
Yes, sir.
Are there any other resources in terms of education that you would recommend? A couple websites that or maybe they're on the the Operation Lightshine website, but places that people can be more informed to then go and share that knowledge with their friends and their peers.
Yeah, on our website, there is a resources tab. So there are all the good hotline numbers where if you see something, say something, like we have all the hotline numbers on there. We have some resources available on there as well. But I think it's, again, don't get sucked into the vortex of this space because there's a lot of people that put out a bunch of just junk.
Right.
I think it's really vetting and seeing who you're listening to. There's some great nonprofits out there that have some great educational programs. There's too many to start listing. I would feel bad because I'm friends with a lot of them if I forget one. But there are a lot of great resources, man. And just open up the websites, start reading. Don't just read and be like, that's a fact. Like, fact check it.
Right.
Like, what does it truly say? Does other people, are they saying that? I think one of the best ones to educate yourselves on what these topics are and what they look like is called NCMEC, NCMEC, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I think it's a .org or .com, I can't remember. But it talks about every topic that we talked about today: sex trafficking, child sexual abuse material. It touches on all of it, what it looks like, what are the case numbers, what are resources. It is a fantastic website to go to. So I would encourage you to use that one as well.
And then lastly, there are those who are sent and called. The law enforcement individuals fighting on the front lines, you in an executive position for a nonprofit organization fighting this war. And then there are senders. There are those who are in the professional place, the marketplace, that are able to earn a high level of income, or even, those that are working an hourly rate job, but they want to be able to donate financially. Is that available on your website?
It is right there on the front page. Yeah. And we give you a lot of different options to get involved and donate. Even if it's not to us, to somebody, you know what I mean? That's so many times in our space, I feel that's where we kind of have this us against them mentality. And man, if something about us doesn't resonate with you, please don't stop, right? If you've heard this today, you're like, I want to get involved, and you can go to our website and it just doesn't resonate, keep looking.
Yeah.
There are tons of other organizations out there doing great work. Be involved somewhere, do something. Just sit back and say, it's the government's fault, they don't fund it enough. It's somebody else's fault, they keep pointing the finger. Nothing's ever going to get done. So I would just encourage you, if it's not us, someone, just get involved.
Like you said, it's inappropriate and naive for someone to say, oh, that's not my problem.
Yeah.
If they say that, they are the problem. Part of it, at least. Bryan, thank you for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jackson.
We'll catch you on the next one.